Hello, everybody. How are you doing? I'm Richard Osterwood, and I have the great pleasure today to have as a guest Jonathan Mast. Jonathan, we've become good friends in the past almost year now, I think it would be.
Yeah.
We met at a conference last year in Miami, and we've been in touch and have some of the same interests. So we've stayed in contact for quite some time now. Jonathan is an expert in AI, and he's going to share all his secrets. Maybe not all of them, but most of them. I'll try what I can squeeze out of him. He has one of the fastest growing, if not the fastest growing, group on AI. I think you're over 80 something thousand right now.
Yeah, over
Jonathan?
over 85,000 members, yeah.
Over 85,000 members in kind of 6 months. So like it's crazy fast. And you have your company, Whitebeard Strategies,
Mhm.
and you have a lot of experience because you started back in 95. So let, let me not keep on blabbering and tell us a little bit more about yourself, your business, and what you're going to share with us today.
Well, thank you for the invite. I appreciate it. Glad to be here, and hopefully we can add some value. As you mentioned, I'm kind of a nut when it comes to AI. I don't know if that's always a good thing or not, but I enjoy it a lot. And being an entrepreneur with ADD, I think it's just a beautiful thing that allows us to save a tremendous amount of time and energy. Uh, we can increase our profits. We can deliver more value to our clients all the way around. Richard, I just think it's a tremendous tool and gives us a tremendous amount of flexibility. So myself, I've spent, as you mentioned, a lot of years in the digital marketing field. Now use that experience combined with AI to help businesses figure out how they can pull AI into their operations to deliver better service to their customers, to improve their bottom lines, and ultimately to save time and get more done.
Awesome. Yeah. That's the whole idea about this call is for you to showcase your knowledge and how small businesses can leverage AI to grow their business. There's a lot of people that are afraid. Some people are trying to avoid it, denial. So tell us a little bit more about that and how you see businesses better taking advantage of AI.
Well, it's a really good point. You're right. I definitely see a lot of people, Richard, that are kind of scared. And I guess probably the best place to start is you and I are both old enough to remember a movie back in the 80s called The Terminator.
Oh,
And some of our audience may be there as well. And if not, they may have seen it. Great movies. But the AI in Terminator is not the AI that we have today. You and I have talked a lot about that. And it's just, it's a very different thing. I always encourage people to imagine that they're in a room that is filled full of boxes of encyclopedias. Again, when I was a kid, I remember the encyclopedia salesman used to come around and they'd sell this box of encyclopedias that had all this information in it. And man, it was exciting. Now, where I grew up, we didn't have those in our house, but we had them at the library and we had them at school and we could go look at them when we needed to. If you would imagine, though, not only have we filled the room you're sitting in full of encyclopedias, but we've filled the entire building or home that you're in. And on top of that, it's overflowed out into the yard and the driveway and your area, your whole suburban neighborhood, and it's expanded and filled your city. And just imagine the number of books that would take. Well, AI has that much information and more. And the beautiful thing about it is it gives us almost immediate recall to that information. And so it seems like it's just unbelievably smart and it knows everything because it's read all this data. Now, the good news is it's read all that data. The bad news is you and I have also read data that wasn't true, and it's read both true data and false data. And so we're still needed as humans. It's not replacing us because we need to take a look at what it's producing and go, yeah, that's good or that's bad, in the same type of discernment that we do when we hear a news story or read something on social media. Sometimes that little BS meter on your shoulder goes off and goes, yeah, I don't think so. That same thing can happen with AI. In my experience, about 80 to 85% of what it comes up with is perfectly accurate. But when it talks facts and statistics, 15 to 20% of it's not exactly there. But like my 16-year-old son, it's very good at sounding convincing and like it knows what it's talking about, even when it doesn't have a clue. And so again, that's where we come in and where we fit in. And I want to encourage businesses in particular, especially those who may be thinking, wow, I'm scared of this AI. It's going to replace my staff. It's going to do this. Maybe you're just a great employee and you're worried it's going to replace your job. No, AI is not going to replace anything. But people who learn how to use AI effectively will replace other people who don't learn how to use AI effectively. It's not going away. AI is here to stay. It's kind of like the internal combustion engine when it came on the scene. All the buggy whip manufacturers thought there were still going to be factories for them. Unless you live in an Amish community like me, there aren't any around. And even in my Amish community, there aren't any buggy whip, manufacturers. There's just one Amish guy who makes them. That's
That's
the way
funny.
it's changing. And I encourage every business owner to look at it with a opportunistic attitude as to how can I use this to improve, again, not just my bottom line, but how can I use it to improve my employees' life, to make their life better, the work they do better. And ultimately, you know me, Richard, I love to give back. And how can we deliver more value to our clients? Because at the end of the day, as business owners, if we deliver more value, our clients are less likely to go think the grass is greener on the other side of the fence. And so I think AI gives us a great capability of doing that.
Yeah, that's really amazing. And the funny thing is that you kind of covered a bunch of questions that I already had for you. But definitely it's true. Like one thing that's really important, and I think that was something that was going to come up when I asked you about mistakes people are making, is like they're taking for granted what AI tells them. And as you
Oh,
say,
yeah.
AI is just reading everything that's out there, and some of it is crap. And so it's just going to reproduce that. And sometimes it also hallucinates. So it's making stuff up because it doesn't know. So it's filling in the gaps. And that's also not real. So that's a big mistake. Ignoring it or denial is really bad too. It's kind of like back in the, what was it, 90s, even on the news, it was like this internet fad that's coming out. Who's going to use email? That's going to go away pretty soon. But look how where we're at right now. So yeah.
Yeah, again, and that's really where I think it's important for businesses and employees at businesses as well. If you work in a business and your owner is not embracing AI, it's time for you to really ask that question. What's that mean for your career? Because if you work in a business, and I'm not trying to pick on anybody, but if you work in a business and your ownership, your management team's telling you not to be using AI, they're making a mistake. And I'm sorry, I'll make that broad statement. And that's going to impact you down the road as an employee unless you, outside of work, learn how to use those AI tools. Now, I understand there's some environments where AI doesn't work as well as others, but AI does so much more than just create content. And so many people are like, well, I don't need to create content. As marketers, Richard, you and I get excited about that because we
Yeah.
see how we can scale and create better quality content than we ever have been able to do before. But apart from that, there's so many other things it can do. Just this morning, I was talking to a client of mine, and they do fundraising, and they were trying to figure out how do they appeal to some fraternal organizations that they're reaching out to. They're trying to do some fundraising with, and they truly, honestly, just they wanted better insights into the organizations. And so we used AI to actually research, to do some data analysis, and to come back with better information points on what are some of the pain points that these fraternal organizations are experiencing. And in this case, how could their business, their services, provide a solution to these organizations that would add value? And now some of what it came up with was stuff that the client already knew, but there were some new angles that they came up with that, wow, I've never thought of that. And that's one of the really exciting things about AI. I think you and I have talked about this, but one of my favorite stories about AI is the fact that right now they have taken medical professionals.
Yes.
I've taken all of the diabetes research that's been done, I want to say since the 50s, and don't hold me back. I don't have diabetes, so I don't understand it really well, but I do know that diabetes has been something we have to treat, we can't cure. And they've been using AI to analyze not just some of the research, but all of the research they could get their hands on. And they're asking AI to draw conclusions based upon all that data. And through data analysis, they are now testing, and I don't know what it's going to turn out, but they're testing things that they believe may actually cure diabetes.
Wow.
Because AI has been able to not necessarily dream up something that didn't exist, but find connections within the vast array of data that's out there that we as humans just couldn't do as quickly.
Right.
This morning I needed real simple. I publish a podcast every week, and I was working with my team to come up with a title. I didn't like the titles. They didn't like the titles. And so we literally took the transcript, a 54-minute transcript from the podcast. We pasted it in the chat GPT and we said, all right, this is for our 91 Day Success podcast. And here's what our audience looks like. We need 10 ideas for titles for this episode. And within 30 seconds or less, and that included typing everything in and uploading the transcript, it came back with 10 really good ideas. It came back with 7 really good ideas, 3 that I didn't like. But the whole point is in 30 seconds, we had 10 ideas to pick from. And we ended up picking one of them. It was really good.
Right.
In the old days, we would have went back and said, all right, let's listen to it again. Let's walk through. And we would have literally spent multiple hours or man hours, people hours, going through and analyzing to come up with a good title. And in this case, we just went to AI and fed it the transcript, and we had those suggestions literally in 30 seconds. And that's just one of many, many examples of how we can use AI to help be more efficient, to be more productive, and ultimately to deliver more value to our clients.
Right. Yeah. There are a couple of things that you've mentioned right now that are, I think, really important. One thing that you mentioned that I think is important is that you were saying some business owners are saying, well, I don't need to create content. I don't need to be writing all this blog posts, but they actually do. And I think that's something you specialize in building authority through content. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I can, thank you for that. I'm a huge believer, and again, I'm biased, Richard, but I've done this myself. You've seen me do it. Our coach originally taught us to build something called omnipresence, meaning be in a situation that no matter where your prospect is at, that you're seen as that expert, that you're in front of them. So whether you're a chiropractor, you're a dentist, a roofer, doesn't matter. Whatever you do, let's just for a moment, let's say we're a roofing company and we want to be in that situation that when people in our community need a roof, that they come to us. Well, that means developing what I call topical authority, or what our coach calls omnipresence. And that simply means that no matter where that prospect looks on their social media, in their email, whatever media they're participating in online, that your roofing company shows up. And the neat thing is, and this is where so many businesses, I think, misunderstand, we don't need to be doing advertising on all those platforms. You can, but the better way, the more effective way is to create content. If you would go out as a roofer and answer the questions that your audience is already asking about roofs. For example, do I use shingled roof or metal roof? Do I need a new roof or do I need a replacement? And again, if you can't find those questions, go to sites like answerthepublic.com or Ask Socrates and just type in your industry, and they'll give you literally dozens and dozens of questions that your audience is already asking online, the things they're searching Google for about your business, and then just answer them. Richard, you and I have talked about this. I create a video. I don't create them every day, but I publish a video every day answering questions that my audience is asking. And if I'm not sure, I just take questions that I've been asked, questions from my group or whatever. And I do that. And the most amazing thing happened. Well, first of all, and this is a warning for every business owner out there. Okay. So are you ready? Listen to the warning, guys. The first 60 days you do this, you're going to think that nobody's listening.
Right.
And you're going to want to give up. But if you're committed and you stick with it, just like you stuck with your business when your family and your friends and everybody else told you it wasn't going to work, you had that tenacity to stick with it. Do that with this. And, I've now been doing this for over a year. Richard, you and I have talked about this. I don't do advertising anymore because literally every day I have qualified people reaching out to me to say, Jonathan, how do we work with you? And that same thing can happen whether you're a roofer, a chiropractor, or an AI and marketing nut like me. It doesn't really make any difference. And AI can help you create that content. And that's what gets exciting because sometimes you don't know what to say. So you go to ChatGPT and say, all right, I'm a roofer and I need to answer this question about metal roofs or shingled roofs and talk about the pros and cons because my business provides both. And ChatGPT will help you create that video script, that social media post, that blog post, whatever it is. You proof it, you post it, and you just posted content that would have taken you hours a year ago and may now take you 15 minutes.
Yeah, totally. Something important that you were saying, that the warning is be patient. It's going to work, but it takes time. You have to be consistent. And yeah, I think you mentioned that in one of your most recent reels, where you're saying one of your reels reached a million views.
Yeah, we just
And
had our first one go over 1 million views. Yeah.
but it took you how many videos to get that one, right?
We were just shy of 1,000 short form videos that we had posted before we got our first one to go over 1 million. But that's probably a good example in that we didn't give up. I mean, when we started, I was happy I got 5 people to watch my video.
Right.
And then we were happy when we got double digits at 10 or 15 or 20 people. And then all of a sudden we got to the point that some of them were getting 100 views. And I remember thinking, because I'm 3 to 6 months into the process and still at that, couple hundred views type level. And I'm wondering, is this really worth it? And then a mentor of mine came to me and said, hey, what would you do if you could get in front of 100 people that were in your target audience to tell them about what you do and to establish your credibility? What would that be worth to you? I'm like, well, it'd be hard to put a dollar figure on it, but I mean, I'd prep for that. I'd spend time for that. That'd be a big deal. I mean, I'd get in the car and drive partway across the country to do that. That would be a big deal.
Right.
And he's like, and you can do that just by grabbing your phone and recording. Exactly. And now I'm at a point, and it's not about me, but by creating that consistent content, my average video now is getting thousands of views. We're verging on tens of thousands of views. And I have my first one that just went over 1 million views because of that. Now, views are great. And Richard, you and I know that makes it seem like it's worthwhile. But what's really valuable is the fact that that's turning into new leads and new opportunities to help me grow my business. And again, I'm using AI to help me create that content. It's still me on the video. I'm not necessarily and I'm not doing AI video. I don't think we're quite there yet. But when it comes to how should I respond to this, or boy, I don't know exactly what to say, I'll have AI write a video script for me and I'll read that through. I'll have it create social media posts all the time for me. I don't want to take the time to write 3 social media posts about the best ChatGPT prompt. I don't even necessarily want to take the time to write all the articles. So I'll go ahead and let AI help me with that. And here's a quick tip for your readers, again, in the content creation area. If you want it to sound like you, simply pick up your phone. Don't record the video, but just record the audio of whatever you want to say. And then upload that audio file to ChatGPT or to Claude or to Google Gemini and say, based upon this, use this as a background and now write me a social media post, write me a video script, write me a blog post based upon that. And all of a sudden, you're going to find that what comes out sounds exactly like you because it was actually using your voice, your words, your knowledge to create that. But instead of going to my admin and say, I'm going to record those meeting notes and hand it to my admin and say, all right, you write my social post, I'm using AI to do that now. It's faster, it's cheaper, and it's probably better because AI understands my audience in a way that my admin just isn't going to understand my audience.
Right.
So
even
that's
more
just
if
one
it's someone
example.
new. Yeah. So something like you said, some very important things there. A couple that I like to mention is, first of all, some people, and you, I know you do this, but like people use AI as a soundboard. They just throw their ideas in, ask for opinions, ask to elaborate, and can create bigger, more information. I know some say that we're becoming lazy, but I think that's not true. It's actually we're becoming more efficient and we're managing our thoughts in a better way. And then I have a second part to that, but probably not a second part, a second addition of what you said that is also very important. But tell us a little bit about this, like using it as soundboard, brainstorming with AI.
Brainstorming is far and away one of the most common things I use it for. Being an entrepreneur with ADD, I have new ideas all the time. And I've learned I can't share them all with my wife because my wife's an operations person. So she then tries to figure out how to make them happen. But AI is great because it allows me to very quickly work through an idea, to strategize, and I'm literally communicating back and forth. I always tell it's a lot like texting. If I'm texting, you and I are texting back and forth, Richard, I'm not just going to say, hey, let's meet for lunch. And then that's it. And trust that you're going to show up at the right restaurant at the right time on the right day. I'm going to be like, hey, do you want to grab lunch? How about this location on this day and this time? And we're going to communicate back and forth. And with AI, it's really the same thing. So for brainstorming, it's really akin to, Richard, if I pick up the phone and call you up and go, Richard, I just had a great idea. I'm thinking we should do X and we should try to appeal to this audience. And what do you think about that? And
Right.
then you're going to tell me what you thought. You're going to ask me some questions. You do that exact same thing with ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, any of the models out there. And you're going to find that it's going to brainstorm with you and bring you new perspectives. It's going to give you new ideas. It's going to, sometimes you're going to go, wow, that wasn't a good idea. I probably shouldn't do it. Other times it's going to give you ideas and you're going to go, hey, I might be onto something here and I should run with it. I even use it even with simple stuff like trying to figure out if maybe I've got a problem employee or an employee situation I need to deal with, and I'm not sure the best way to do that. I can ask ChatGPT and it will give me advice on how I should frame the questions, how I should approach the person, what types of things I might want to consider as far as helping them grow to do a better job next time. And it's an amazing, incredibly knowledgeable, essentially tool that you have to use. That brainstorming and ideation is absolutely fantastic. And again, it speeds up that process. So I hear what you're saying. Some people are going to go, Jonathan, you're being lazy. No, I get a lot more done now in the same amount of time. So I'm being a lot more productive.
Right.
And probably more importantly, I'm not wasting the time of people around me to bounce ideas off of, because I do that a lot. Now I get to bounce a lot of those ideas off AI, and I only bounce the ideas off once I think I've got them better refined. So I'm wasting everybody's time less than what I used to.
And something important with that is because the sea of knowledge that AI has, you can also bounce ideas back with specific individuals. You can say, act as so and so, like is this person, because maybe it's a business problem or it's a fitness problem or something like that, and then get a different perspective. And I know sometimes when I use it, it's like it comes up with stuff that I wouldn't have thought about. And when I look at it, it's like,
Absolutely.
oh wow, that's great. Or it comes up with something like, I had forgotten about that. I knew that, but I totally forgot. Great idea. Let's use it. So yeah, that's really important too.
Yeah, another area that I use it in, using that example is, again, I grew up in a time when Zig Ziglar was the sales coach to
Yeah.
listen to, and I love Zig's style. And one of his most famous statements is, if you add enough value to other people's lives, sooner or later you'll have everything you want in your life. And I think that's so true in life in general. And just the other day, I was doing some consulting with a client, and they had a sales issue, and they're like, "What should we do about it?" I'm like, "Well, let's see what Zig has to say." And they're
Yeah.
younger, and they're like, "Zig," and I'm like, "Yeah, Zig Ziglar." And so we literally went in and asked the AI model, using the knowledge you have in the style of Zig Ziglar, how would you address this objection? And it came back and gave us a tremendous answer to it that we tweaked just a little bit. But
Mhm.
again, like you said, I was able to do that. And I could have picked anybody. I didn't have to pick Zig Ziglar. I could have picked any person I wanted to and said how to do that. I often use the Dan Kennedy. Dan Kennedy's a great copywriter in the marketing world. And so a lot of times I'll be like, hey, using Dan Kennedy's tone and style, help me write an introduction or I've lost my words, a subject for this email,
Sure.
and it'll do that, and it'll give me options. And sometimes I like them, sometimes I don't. If I don't, I can pick somebody else. I can say, okay, Alex Hermosi just wrote some brand new books about entrepreneurship, and he's the hot guy in
Yeah.
entrepreneurship. Use Alex Hermosi's perspective, and it will do that and give it. It's amazing how it can do that. And even more amazing to me is, if you take the time, Richard, you and I have talked about this, you can train the AI model to sound like you. So
Mhm.
maybe you're running a business and you're like, I get the sales stuff. I want my team to know how I would respond to that. No problem. We can go and do that. And by custom instructions and custom GPTs, we can literally create an AI model that your team can utilize to answer the questions the way you'd like them to. Maybe based on your information, maybe just based upon your employee handbook or your employee training. Nobody's reading the 3-inch binder on their desk.
Right.
But if you put that into an AI model and now let people query it, all of a sudden you'll find you have ways to deal with things that are so much faster, and it makes your team's life better as well.
Right. Something important, now that we're talking about soundboarding, brainstorming, all that, is, and going back to the lazy part, there are some lazy people that think AI is magic, and they're going to say, Is this a good idea? And that's it. And give them no context, no nothing, and it's going to get a they're going to get a bad answer, and they're going to either, if they're really stupid, they're going to use that bad answer,
Yes.
or they're going to believe ChatGPT or AI in general doesn't work at all. And I know the way people also use it some can be improved, and you have a framework for that that helps get better responses from AI. If you care to share that,
Oh, I'd
or
be happy to. Yeah. No, this sprouted, Richard, from, you've probably got these emails like I have. Everybody's trying to sell you a list of prompts to use.
yes,
Buy my list of 12 prompts, 1,200 prompts, 12,000 prompts, doesn't really matter. I've spent a lot of money on these, trying them out, trying to prove for my group that they're good or bad. And I will tell you, without fail, every single one of them has been a waste of money. Not that there may not be some gold in there occasionally, but it's like trying to find that needle in the haystack.
right,
The amount of time it takes to go through even 12 prompts to figure out a good one isn't worth it, when all you really need is a framework. And I've learned over the years, listen to me, I'm
yeah,
not dating myself. Technically, I started using AI really early, because if you've ever used GPS on your phone, that's AI.
mm-hmm.
But over the last year, I've really honed in on 4 steps that I believe help you create, and anybody can use these to create a prompt that will answer their questions really well. And the 4 steps are super simple. Step 1 is tell the model, and we'll say ChatGPT, tell ChatGPT who it's supposed to act like. So if you're looking for advice, let's say, for example, again, maybe I'm looking for a new service that I want to launch in my business, or a new product I want to launch, then I'm going to say, I need you to act as an expert business consultant who specializes in my field. Maybe I'm a roofer again, who specializes in helping roofing companies grow their business. Then I need to give it some background and say, I am a roofing company in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I do residential roofing. Okay. I need to just give it a little bit of context. And then I need to ask you my question. I want to start offering metal roofing in addition to the shingles that I've offered for years. Help me understand how I should explain this to the marketplace in a way that establishes me as an expert in the roofing industry. So 3 steps so far. How are you supposed to act? What's my situation? What's my question? And I really think, Richard, the 4th part is the most important, and the part everybody wants to skip. And that's that we need to understand that AI is programmed to fill in the gaps and make assumptions. And so if we don't give it information, it's programmed to make assumptions about what we want. And we all know what happens when we assume things. We've all seen that acronym. It happens with AI as well. So the 4th step is very simple. Just end your prompt with, ask me any clarifying questions you need in order to give me the best possible response. You don't need to go into any more detail. And the beauty of doing that is, now, if you're like me and you forgot to give it some relevant information that it really does need to give you that feedback, it's going to say, hey, Jonathan, before I can do that, I really need to know these things. And again, I don't know what those questions will be, but ChatGPT knows. But if we don't ask that, it's been programmed to make assumptions, and it does, as we know, make an ass out of both you and me when it does that sometimes. And so it's important to not do that. And so just follow that prompt framework. 1, how do I want you to act? Again, we talked at the beginning about this vast amount of knowledge that AI has. And if we don't give it some context, it's like having my wife come in and go, we need to talk. And I'm going, uh-oh, what'd I do wrong? Because there's so many things over the last 20 some years that could be brought up in the next 30 seconds, and I don't know where to go. But if she walks in and says, hey, we need to talk about where we're having dinner tonight, I'm like, oh, okay. Now all of a sudden I know right where we're going, and I know it's going to be a quick discussion. Am I cooking because I cook in our family, or am I buying because we're going to go out to dinner?
Mm-hmm.
But it's brought that context in, and we need to do that exact same thing with AI. Then background becomes so important. So just give it a little background information. Assume it doesn't know you very well. Just like my wife can't read my mind, and Lord knows I can't read hers, then AI's can't read yours either. Right. It doesn't mean it's bad. It just doesn't have that ability. And then ask it your question. Again, it's like my wife coming and saying, hey, we need to talk about what we're doing for dinner tonight. I'm in the mood for Mexican. What do you want? All of a sudden, now, hey, we can have a very quick, productive conversation and figure out what's going on for dinner. But if she just starts with, we need to talk, and says nothing else, it's going to take us a little while and maybe a little bit of stress to get down to that point that, oh, what you really wanted to do is decide if we could have tacos tonight. And so, it may seem like a weird analogy, but that's really important with AI as well, to go through that same process.
Now, that's not the same as when you ask your wife, what do you want for dinner? And she says anything. Or at least with mine, it's like anything isn't anything.
I think it's universal, because anything is anything until you mention the first three restaurants, and not that, and not that, and not that.
Not that. But anyway, that's not AI.
This
That's
is
really
not marriage counseling. Yeah, this is not marriage counseling.
okay. Great. Okay. Now that you were mentioning a few minutes ago, you were talking about training it and how to
Mhm.
make it more like you and how to make it available for your employees and to other people. I think it's a good moment to talk about GPTs, custom GPTs, and how those can benefit businesses. And tell us a
Would
little bit
love
about
to.
that.
Yeah, so a custom GPT, for those that don't know, is just literally a customized version of an AI model that acts and responds in a manner similar to that you want it to. And custom GPTs are available with ChatGPT right now. It's the only platform they're available on. You do need to be a paid subscriber. And yes, I do think it's worth paying the $20 a month to be a paid subscriber. I did a webinar this morning, and I think I had 6 people ask me, and yes, I do think it's worth it. Guys, I mean, I would give up Netflix and pretty much everything but food and shelter before I'd stop paying that $20 a month. There's so much value. But when you do that, you have access to what are called custom GPTs. And the good news is there's tons of them that are already done. So in many cases, if you're looking for something to help you with a specific task, much like an app on your phone, you can find a custom GPT or an app to do that. But the real value and the power, as you were talking about, Richard, comes in when you allow that venue or that application to start reflecting your knowledge. So let's just say, hypothetically, for customer service, I want my customer service team to be able to respond to every question that comes in the best possible way. And I know that part of that means they need to toe the company line. In other words, we have certain policies and procedures that they need to follow. If you're like most people, and I'm looking around for a folder, I don't have one, but I've got a box, they've got a box that's this thick. And they're like, okay, that's where the information is. The problem is when the customer's on the phone or on email, they're not opening up that binder or that box and looking through it to find that question. That's not how it works.
Right.
So they guess, or they go off what they heard the rep next to them talk about earlier today, or they go off their memory, and they may be right and they may be wrong. And now we end up with customers who get frustrated because if that rep tells something that's not according to policy, we're going to have a conflict and a communication snafu. We don't want that. With an AI model, imagine that we can upload all of that data, not to mention all of your personality about your organization, how you want to act, the tone and style that you want to take. And now when our customer service has somebody that wants to return a product, they don't have to remember the process. They simply can use that tool to go, how do I, what's the best message to send somebody that wants to return a product? And AI will literally come back resonating your tone and your style and your policies and procedures, and it'll do it in a nice way. I've had to write sometimes emails, you probably have too, Richard, where I knew I should be nice, but I didn't want to be because I was really annoyed. That happens in customer service. It happens in sales. It happens in business. And ChatGPT doesn't have emotion. And that's a beautiful thing because it can put someone in their place nicely and have them tell you thank you as a result. And so that's just one example. And we can use a custom GPT to train on any type of data, any type of information, and have it then reflect you, your organization, or anything like that.
I remember one of your posts, I'm not sure if it was recent or not, where you were mentioning you turned around like a negative review or something like that using ChatGPT, or am I making that up?
No, no, you're not. I mean, we've definitely done that. So recently we, like everybody else, we had a client that wasn't happy. It happens. It was a miscommunication. And it was, in my perspective as head of the company, if there's a miscommunication, it ultimately is my fault because I either didn't communicate it myself or I didn't teach my team or whatever. There was nothing majorly wrong, but the client was ticked. And I get it because there was a big miscommunication. I wanted to basically go, look, come on, be reasonable. But that's, saying that it's not always a good idea. That doesn't help. So instead, I went to ChatGPT and I pasted in the comment that they made. And I then pasted in, and here's what I want to say. And it was just a couple bullet points. Help me say this better. Sorry, getting over a cold here. And hopefully I
Yeah.
caught that
No
cough
problem. No
button in
problem.
time. But so help me do that better. And it was able to then, again, I used a custom GPT that knows our company policies and knows what we stand for and our values. And it wrote a really great response and basically said, hey, I'm sorry. I apologize for any miscommunication. We believe that when that happens, it's on us. So we're taking full responsibility. Here's what should have been conveyed to you. And based upon that, here's what we can do to resolve the situation. And that customer went from being really frustrated and mad and talking about, I just, grass is greener on the other side, as happens when clients get frustrated, and was like, wow, thank you. And literally the next day referred another client to us because of the fact that we were able to resolve that quickly and efficiently and professionally. And it didn't take any emotional toll on any of us, even in this case where the client was mistaken.
Yeah.
They didn't, they were given the information they said they weren't, but having that ability to provide that response in a professional manner that reflected our tone and style and our values as a company, which ChatGPT brought all that in. And it wasn't a long response, but it just brought it in so perfectly that
Politely.
it, yeah, and it made that client super happy, and they're still a client, and now they're happy, and that's a wonderful thing.
And you have another one too. That's
Yeah, and we got another, got a referral. So what's better than that?
That's great. That's great. Okay, so talking about GPTs, that's interesting. Now, I know you're telling people it's worth paying $20 to ChatGPT to have access to GPTs. But if you want to create a GPT, what do you recommend? Would you recommend a business trying to build their own, hiring it out, or just using what's there?
Well, I think it really depends on your goals and objectives. Ultimately, if you're brand new at it, start by building one inside of ChatGPT to get an understanding of how it works. Ultimately, though, if your business is going to rely on that, then I recommend you take a look at building a GPT outside of the ChatGPT infrastructure. Not that ChatGPT is bad, but I don't want to be reliant on any one company. And so again, let's say I do a test and we run this out through ChatGPT and we go, wow, hey, this is working. We put a few hours into it and we can see there's going to be some significant value here. Now I'm going to want to go probably find a developer and spend a few $1,000s to create a customized version of that GPT. But here's where the real difference is going to come in. One, that's going to be an app that my company now owns. So I'm not reliant upon ChatGPT. If they sell, something happens, Microsoft, who owns 49 or whatever percent of them, makes a stupid decision like Microsoft might do. And it's nothing against Microsoft. It's just, big companies do things that aren't always in our best interest.
Yeah.
If that happens, I'm no longer tied to that. My custom GPT doesn't cease to exist because of a decision that was made in a boardroom about people that don't know me. I've got a separate app. And then from that app, I can connect to ChatGPT. I can connect to Google Gemini. I can connect to Claude. I can connect to Perplexity. And now I have much more flexibility as a business because we don't know what models a year from now, Richard, are going to be running. It may, based on the way things look, it looks like it's probably going to be OpenAI and ChatGPT, but that could change overnight. Google could actually wake up and develop something that works really well. Bard wasn't any good. Their new Gemini is not bad. I don't think it's as good as some people do, but it's not bad. If they make that same leap next time, OpenAI is in trouble. And Google has the data, so in theory, they should be able to do that. Am I predicting it? No, I don't know what's going to happen. But that's why having a third-party ChatGPT that's an app that stands apart, I think ultimately for a business makes more sense. It also gives you better ability to protect your IP, your intellectual property, and it gives you the ability to have better security because you're not reliant upon another company to do that. Again, I'd start with ChatGPT, build out a test model, see if it works, and then go out and invest a few $1,000s to make it happen, or download one of the no code apps like Bubble or something like that. And I don't get paid to use any of those guys, but something like that allows you to build that model outside of all of those corporate infrastructures, and then you can connect into each one as you need.
Awesome. Yeah, and probably I wasn't going that far into into the thought process. I was thinking a step back is like, is it worth for them or for the business owner to sit down and learn it and how to make it and all that,
Mhm.
or just go and hire someone to do a quick job. But what all your points are very valid and very important too.
Leave it to me
Something
to
to consider.
overcomplicate it. Yeah.
Huh?
Sorry about that, Richard.
No, no,
Yeah.
no, it's not overcomplicated. It's actually looking forward to what can happen. I actually hadn't thought about that in the context that, yeah, what happens if OpenAI has an issue and then your GPTs are in there and whoops, sorry. Yeah.
No, but you bring up a good point too, and that is, as a business owner, do I need to learn all this? And the answer is no, you don't. There are so many people out there that get AI and understand what's going on. Just vet them appropriately, ask them to do a test project for you or something. Don't believe everybody that claims they're an expert, because they're not.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of people that can do this very well. So no, you as a business owner, if you're not excited and this doesn't make you smile, then don't do it. It's like me doing my books. I
Mm,
pay to have a bookkeeper and an accountant do those, because every time I open QuickBooks, I want to, like, just puke, because I don't like dealing with that stuff.
mhm.
It doesn't make sense to me. I can't ever find it. I mean, I went in the other day to create an invoice, totally separate. And their menu is so complicated, I couldn't figure out how to create an invoice. I don't need to figure out how to create an invoice. I've
Right.
got a team of people that can do that, and I can hire people to do that. AI is the same way. But as a business owner, just as I can't ignore the fact that I need to issue invoices and I need to pay my bills and I need to do my taxes, that has to be done. But I don't have to do it personally. So I hire an accountant to do it and a bookkeeper. You can do the exact same thing with AI. Don't assume because you're not interested in it that you don't need to do it. Then go find somebody that can help you in that. And if you're looking for that, reach out to Richard. Richard, I know you know a ton of people in that area that can help out and get some direction to do that. You don't have to do that all internally, and you don't need to become the expert.
Right. And I know, I mean, for a fact, like in your case, a lot of people can use AI. You've give them the framework on how to do better prompting, how to get their content. But most business owners, they either have time or they have money. And in most cases, if they don't have the money, well, then definitely do it yourself. But if they do, they want to leverage their time, and they're going to, like in your case with the authority content, they're going to hire someone like you to create that for them. And that's the service that your company does for businesses and agencies and a bunch of
Right.
people, because
Yeah. And like, yeah.
it's not that they couldn't do it, it's just that it's not worth their time. It's their time is worth more than building out content.
Absolutely. And as an owner, it's one of the most important things we can do as business owners and entrepreneurs is understand where is our time best
Right.
used, and then to use some of the money that we earn to pay experts in the other areas so we don't have to.
Right. Yeah, yeah, totally. I remember I love technology, obviously, and I used to love playing with new tools when Photoshop came out and all the video editing tools. I remember actually I was talking with my wife about this during a trip we were just in. I took a panorama and I was remembering like, wow, I remember back in the day we had to take these pictures, make sure they kind of fit, and then you use this stitching tool to
Oh
splice them all
yeah.
together to
Yeah.
make this big panorama. And now you just swipe your phone and you're done. But I used to play with that, and at some point I was like, I want to do this, and it's going to be really cool. But was it really worth my time? Uh, Maybe because I enjoyed it. But if I was
Right.
doing it because I needed it and I didn't enjoy it, definitely would have been much better to hire someone to do it for me.
100%. And I think, there's so many things in business that are that way, Richard. It just depends again on what gets you excited. Some things are great, and I want to do other things I don't, and that's
Oh
okay.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we have Jordy there that's saying enjoy and thumbs up. So thanks,
Yeah. Hey,
Jordan.
Jordy, thanks for the thumbs up. We appreciate that.
Yeah. I mean, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. That definitely helps keep the conversation going. Not that we don't have anything to talk about. We can go
I
on
would say, Richard, you and I could
forever, I
talk for
think.
a long time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know one of the most common questions I get, Richard, and I'm sure some of your audience may have this as well, is just about, again, there's so many platforms, there's so many tools. Where do
Read
I
my mind.
start? What do
Right.
I start with? And I want to encourage everybody out there that when it comes to AI tools, there's really three or four tools that I recommend people consider starting with. The first is Chat GPT. It's the one that is in everybody's mind. It does the most things for the best price. It's $20 a month for the pro plan, or their plus plan, I guess they call it. And you get access to tons of tools, including image generation if you want. One of my favorite tools, which they call Vision, which allows you to upload images, and it can actually extract data from those images. And that, by the way, can include, if you've ever been at a webinar or a seminar and there's slides up and you take a picture with your mobile phone and you're like, oh, I got to remember that. And then we never go back and actually do anything with those pictures. They just sit on our phone. You can now upload those to ChatGPT and say, hey, I need you to pull the text off those slides and give it to me in a document, and it'll do that for you. Now you've got something that's usable. Just last night, somebody came to me and said, hey, I need help managing my calendar. How do I do this? And I said, short, simple version. They're actually using a written calendar, so they didn't know how to get it in. I said, go grab your phone. And that's fine. You know, that works for some people. Go grab your phone, take a picture of your Franklin planner, and upload that to ChatGPT. And it has your tasks over on the right. I remember that I used to use a Franklin planner, and that's what they're using. And I said, tell it, this is a Franklin planner sheet. I need help optimizing my tasks and looking at my calendar. And based upon that image, literally, it was able to say, okay, you've got breaks at these points in the day. And based upon the way you had the information laid out for your tasks, and priorities, here's how we recommend you plan your day for tomorrow. It did that off of an image. And that's huge, huge value. There's tons of other features, but start there. Start with a $20 a month ChatGPT subscription. One of my other apps that I love that very few people talk about is called perplexity.ai.
I was going to say, yeah.
Perplexity is one of the few tools that I use all the time that I don't pay for. Not that I wouldn't, I just haven't run into a reason that I have to yet. So if you're at Perplexity, I love your model. Thank you very much. But Perplexity, in my mind, is what Google should have done with AI. We all know when we go to Google and we type in a search request, it's going to give us a list of websites that we can go look at. And Perplexity does that same thing, but it goes one step further. It now analyzes the content on those websites, and it gives us an answer to our question as well. So if I'm looking, I'll pick a strange example since it's about lunchtime here where I'm at, and I want to figure out how to make lasagna. I can literally go, and in Google, it'll give me a bunch of websites that I can go to. When I go to Perplexity, not only does it give me those, it also gives me a recipe. And it saves me time and energy, and it uses AI to do that. So that's another tool that I highly recommend using, and again, can really help you get information that much faster. And for graphics, again, ChatGPT is great. Probably my biggest encouragement, and I'm sorry if you're a custom developer, but most of the custom apps that you see out there going, oh, you need to buy this in order to create content. You need to buy this in order to do images. Almost all of them are using the same tools we just talked about.
Right.
ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, and Perplexity, and they're putting lipstick on them to give a different user interface. And in my experience, most of those interfaces are not any easier to use than the ones that already exist. So
are you still using Midjourney?
Yes, I use Midjourney all the time for images. It's my go-to for images.
Okay.
If you're into imagery, whether that's by the way, if you want to have fun, just call them fake images. It gets everybody's attention. They're not fake, but it's AI generated. Right. I did that on a title on a video today, and video's like blowing up because I said fake images. So, but if you want to create images like that, you can use DALL-E, which is part of ChatGPT. I'm not a huge fan of the quality. It's not bad. It's just it's kind of infographic quality, and I don't like that as much. Midjourney is fantastic. Now, there's one big warning for Midjourney. Two, one, it is subscription only, so there is no free option. And two,
not anymore. Oh, I thought
no, it's gone. Yep, you have to pay in order to use it.
I mean, I've been paying for it, so
there you go. And it works differently. Instead of just going to a website or an app and running it like you would expect, it actually works through something called Discord, which is a server. It's not hard to set up, but it's not necessarily intuitive. The good news is once it's set up, it's really easy to use, and it's super fast. If you're not sure what to use, I actually recommend a lot of people start with a website for graphics called Leonardo.ai. They give you 10 to 12 free images every day. It does a very good job, and it's all web-based, so it's super, super simple. Now, they are going to try to upsell you if you want to do more and higher res stuff, but it's a great place to get started, get your feet wet. And that's probably the best recommendation for people getting started is start using these tools, Richard. Start playing with them. And then
Right.
as you go, wow, this is good, then go ahead and upgrade if it is. Pay the developers. They deserve to be paid if you're using the app. But don't develop that, and I'm there, that, ooh, there's a new bright shiny toy and I need to buy it because it's going to let me do
Oh
something
gosh.
neat. 9 times out of 10, it's not going to do anything different than what you can do with ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, Perplexity, and Midjourney.
Yeah, I think something business owners have to be aware of if they've dipped their toes in the online marketing um, products that come out every day and the software from JVZoo and all that. Most of them are just using the API for OpenAI or something else to create that. And as you said, it's just another front end that they're going to use and the little lipstick and all that. And you can do it all inside of ChatGPT and Claude and everything. What's your favorite one? I mean, I know you say ChatGPT is where you should start, but like, what is your go-to one?
Well,
Claude, ChatGPT,
it's
or
funny you ask
Larry?
that. So I just bought what's called a Stream Deck from Envato or
Yeah.
Elgato, and I'm using it mainly for video stuff. But one of the cool things I just found out, it's like a hot button to go to all my favorite apps.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just set it up this morning, and literally my top row is ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, and Midjourney. And
Okay.
I use ChatGPT and Claude absolutely every day, generally in conjunction with each other because they're different engines. And so it allows me to get slightly different perspectives. This morning, I was helping a client write some ad copy in a webinar that I did, and we ran it through both. Both gave great answers, but they were slightly different, and the client preferred one over the other. So ChatGPT and Claude are definitely my go-tos. I pay for both of those. I think they're both very, very good. I also love them from a data analysis perspective. There's nothing like being able to take a big PDF document or a big spreadsheet, upload it to them, and then ask questions about the
Right.
data in that PDF or spreadsheet. I absolutely love that capability.
Yeah, that's something that I found out, at least with ChatGPT, is like PDFs are great, but sometimes if they're too big, it'll slow stuff down. Like if you can change, you can translate that PDF into a text file.
It's
It's
much
gonna,
faster. Yeah.
yeah, it's gonna be much faster and easier to search and all that. Yeah, I love Stream Deck. I use my Stream Deck more as a shortcut thing than for video myself too. Yeah, that's great. Um, let's see. Okay, what tool? What is something like really unconventional or a creative way that you see someone using AI?
Hmm. Well, I think one of the ways that I love to use it, and I should do it more often, but I've got a wonderful 6-year-old granddaughter and a year and a half old grandson, and they live about 10 hours away, so I don't get to see them as much as I'd like. And what I try to do with it is I'm not good at writing short stories, but they both
Hmm.
love short stories and they love farm animals and that type of stuff. And so I'll literally use it and say, I'm writing a short story for my granddaughter who's 6 years old, and I want to write it about a chick and a dog, and write me a short story. And then I'll literally read that story to her and send her that video. And does it relate to business? No, not at all. But it allows me to it's something fun and simple. And again, just an example of how it can do things that are so totally different, where I'm using it for business all day long. And then I decide I want to do that as a story, and I can send it off to her, or I can send it off to my grandson, and get something, a way to connect with them that maybe I wouldn't have been any good at otherwise.
Oh, that's cool. That's nice. Something that I tried with the custom GPT, considering now that you have vision in Chat GPT, is
Hmm.
I did a little GPT where you can grab a picture of what you're eating, and then based on a couple of guys on YouTube, it will figure out the nutrition value and if
Hmm.
it's okay. I mean, you always know if it's good or not, but it will give you a little more description and what some healthy alternatives would be. But I mean, it impresses me so much, like how advanced it is that now you just take a picture and it says, "Oh, you're having a plate of hamburger and French fries, and this has this, and based on here your portion is probably too big, and you could
Yeah.
substitute the French fries with some vegetables and steamed vegetables, bland, flavorless." But yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I mean, it doesn't say that, but probably I should put that little sarcastic into it. It would be more
Well, I
fun.
say if it's using Richard's tone and style, it says that.
Yeah,
If it's not, then it doesn't, right?
yeah, exactly. It's my own little toy, and I take it. I'm like, okay.
Well,
I
but it's true. That's, I've seen people go and literally take pictures of what's in their refrigerator and say, based
yes,
upon what's here, what can I make for dinner?
I saw that
And
too.
it'll come back with some really good ideas. So it's amazingly powerful when you think of it. We didn't talk at all about like the voice capabilities. I love that. I was on
Yeah.
the road speaking last week, and when I had some questions, I literally turned on the voice capabilities and had a conversation back and forth. So literally me talking to ChatGPT and it responding audibly back to me. Now it's the same information that it puts in text,
Hmm.
but it was able, it allowed me to hands free work through some issues and some things that I needed to work with. Just to, a couple things my team had brought up about, hey, how do we deal with this? And I know one of them was I had to create an SOP or a standard operating procedure on how to do something. And, I love the fact that I can go to ChatGPT and I can say, all right, I need to create a standard operating procedure for my team. We need to tell them how we're going to do the following. Here's the 4 steps that I've identified that I want to make sure we cover, but I know there's more that I'm missing. So would you please, 1, fill in those steps, and 2, would you now turn this into a properly formatted and well-written standard operating procedure that my team can follow? And I was able to do all of that verbally by just speaking to it and then listening to it respond. And then I was able to send the result over to my assistant. She threw it in a Google Doc, and now
There
we
you
have an
go.
SOP.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a really powerful use for it. I mean, like just having someone record what they're doing, like explain it to you how they're doing it, and then getting the transcript, throwing it into ChatGPT, create an SOP based on this. I was playing with a tool. I mean, it's fun, but it's probably not as powerful. What was it? Oh, Tango to
Yeah.
create. Yeah,
Tango's really cool. Yeah.
yeah. It's not. It's nice, very simple. If someone's doing that on screen and recording everything, it creates a nice document. But I think if they record a loom and you throw the transcript into ChatGPT, you can have something really powerful too. I'm not sure. Do you know
Mhm.
if they could like Fathom, it could grab screenshots of that? I don't think so yet.
I don't think it'll grab screenshots, although I do 2 things. One, I do love the Loom transcript into an SOP, and then you just attach the video as part of
Hmm.
that. I think that's super powerful. Like you, I use an AI note taker, and that
Right.
saves my backside a lot because I forget things. And it's really powerful. I had it the other day. I needed to follow up with a client, and I wasn't sure what the next steps were that I'd committed to. And I literally grabbed that transcript out
Yeah.
of my note taker. I fed the whole thing into ChatGPT, and I said, I have a follow up with him tomorrow. I don't remember what I'd committed to. Please review this transcript and tell me what were my commitments. And again, in seconds, it had come up and it identified, all right, you committed to do the following things. And it was absolutely on target. And I didn't now have to read the entire thing to remember. That brought back and kind of like a bookmark in my mind said,
Hmm.
okay, now I remember what it's there, and I was able to complete and move on. And again, those are things that save just tremendous amounts of time for the average entrepreneur, at
Oh
least
yeah.
for me.
Yeah, no, definitely it does. I mean, I think that's one of the things I use it mostly for. I mean, not just for to remind me of things that I've forgotten, but also to find things and bring back ideas that I might have had and that
Hmm.
they're stored there. And like, okay, but it has to become like a habit for you to upload stuff and stay in the same stream. Otherwise, it's going to come up with different things. But yeah, it's there's a lot to it that you can do with it. And there's so many more ways. I mean, we haven't even talked about video generation, voice generation,
Yeah,
which
there's
is
so much.
great. Yeah, there's a lot, but I think we're kind of running out of time today.
Well, we'll have to
But
do
yeah,
another session and talk about some of
yeah,
that.
definitely. Please tell people how they can learn more about your company, about your services, how they can reach out to you.
Well, thank you, Richard. I appreciate it. The best way is simply to go to jonathanmast.com/link tree. You'll see all the ways to connect with me. You can go to my website for my company. It's Whitebeard Strategies, but that's harder. Just
Where did that come from?
jonathanmast.com/link tree. And you'll get everything you need. You can connect with me. And yeah, I'd love to hear from anybody and answer any questions I could.
Cool. And you just released your course on AI?
Yeah. Yeah, we just released a course, so it's kind of ironic. I've been telling everybody for the last year, don't buy an AI course. And the reason was really simple. It's not that it's bad information. It's just that by the time you buy an AI course, AI is changing so fast, as you know, Richard, that it was already out of date.
Yeah.
And, I've bought some good courses and I've learned from them, but they were out of date literally weeks after they were published. And my wife, in her infinite wisdom, heard me saying that to somebody and said, well, why don't you fix that? I'm like, well, what do you mean? And she goes, why don't you put out a course and update it every week, every month, however, and then people have always got the updates. And I'm like, well, yeah, that makes sense. She goes, you post content all the time
Mhm.
anyway.
Yeah.
And she's right. So we did. We released a course. We just did it at the Miami convention a couple weeks ago. Now you were out in
Oh, cool.
Spain, but we just
Yeah.
released it there. We've had great response to it, and it includes not only the course but all the updates for 2024. So we released it, a week ago. We've already had 12 updates to it in a week,
Imagine. In a week.
and so that's beneficial because again, those normally wouldn't be part of a course. We made it
Yeah.
incredibly expensive, so it's very unaffordable. It's $99 for the entire
Yeah.
year.
It's
There are
hard.
no add-ons. I'm trying to be facetious. We tried to make it super affordable. And yeah, if you're interested, just again, jonathanmast.com/linktree. There's a link there. You can get our course as well. And then you get a bunch of bonuses and all that fun stuff that goes along with it.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Jonathan. I'm sure people watching this are going to jump into that because I think the content you share is so valuable, and if people see what you're sharing on social media, what is your preferred platform? Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn,
I
where do you
probably
have the biggest pull?
because my Facebook prompting group is on, or my entrepreneuring, let me say
Mm,
this right, my AI prompting group is on Facebook. There we go. I can get my words straight. I definitely post more content there than anywhere else.
okay.
And again, that is a free group. I think you're part of that, Richard.
Yeah.
It's a free group. Anybody can join that. You don't have to pay for stuff. If you want help on how to leverage AI in your business, join our group, start hanging out, lurk in the background, ask questions. We'd love to have you join me and about almost 85, 86,000 other entrepreneurs.
Well, that was my point, that you provide so much valuable content for free on Facebook, Instagram, everywhere. I mean, imagine how good the content in the course is, and it's being updated. So yeah, definitely it's a bargain.
Well,
Worth
thank you. I appreciate that.
10, 20, 100 times fold your money. So definitely look into that. And again, Jonathan, thank you so much for sharing all this with us and spending your time. I know you're super busy. You had a live webinar this morning. I think you're having more this afternoon. You're always online, so good for
Well,
you.
I've kind of developed that persona that I want to add value. You know me well enough, Richard. That's
Yeah,
really my goal. I love to help other people out, and it gives me an opportunity to get in front of a lot of people. And the benefit is I don't have to spend as much time cold calling because people start reaching out to me to do business
right.
with me, and that content model works. So thank you for having me on. I'm really
Oh,
grateful, and it's great to talk to you and your audience. And we'll go from there.
well, thank you guys, and I'll see you next time. Take care. And we should be finalizing this. I think this is still live, but it doesn't matter. It's